Greetings. Welcome back
Hey!
to the spread, the NESN.com football picks podcast, brought to you as always by NESN.com. I'm
Still in operation.
I'm NESN.com's. Big shout out to NESN.com for sponsoring the podcast. I'm NESN.com's Mike Cole. This is Ricky Doyle, Andre Cacciatore. We're here to make our NFL picks as always. And as always, we're using the lines provided to us by our friends at OddsShark. Check them out. A lot of good statistical analysis of betting trends and such. Check out the database. It's like the coolest tool on the internet.
Yeah, it is. I like
making-
it very much.
For
Helps
making
me a
picks.
lot.
Yeah. We'll do it the same way we do it every week. We're going to start with what we're calling this week the three-pack surprise. Three of the biggest games. It's a big weekend. Good
A
weekend.
lot of thought went into that.
Yeah, a lot
You know,
of thought.
next week we should do 3-pack Shakur.
Three-pack. Oh, nice. I like it.
We're already set for next. It took us a while to come up with that for this week.
Uh,
So, standings.
Yeah, well, hold on. I'm
All
going to
right,
run
sorry, go ahead.
Pick 3 games. We're getting a lock and upset. We'll do a prop bet, a little show and tell, and get out of here. Records last week and overall, Andre, takeaway.
Collectively, I think this was our best week. None of us went below 500. Mike and Ricky, you guys both went 6-6-1, and I went 7-5-1. I guess the difference was that Sunday Night Football Raiders game. We had quite a bit of a debate last week about it. Loved it. It was a great game. I know
Yeah.
you didn't like it, Mike.
I
but
didn't really care. Yeah.
We'll talk about that later on, but we can
Yeah.
start the show off with our 3-pack Shakur.
Yeah, Monday night kind of screwed me over too, but we can get into that as well.
We seem to be hovering around the 500 mark here on a pretty
It's a good
consistent
thing.
basis.
We're starting to figure it
You
out.
had, was it last week you had a little bit of a...
Last week, yeah,
it was a struggle from the onset.
it was yeah.
For the most part, I think, we're coming into
It's a good week last week. We went 3-2 in the Super Contest. Should have went 4-1. But the Titans really couldn't pull it through for us. So we're starting to find our ground there too. Feeling good about things.
I like it.
All right.
I'm feeling refreshed.
Yep.
Oh,
Like I'm
look
coming out of a
at
bye
it!
right
We're coming
now.
off our bye weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's do it.
3-pack surprise. Start with Sunday afternoon in Philadelphia. The Eagles host the Atlanta Falcons. Battle of the Birds. We got this as a pick'em right now. Andre, why don't you kick it off?
I'm gonna go with the Falcons. I went and made a spreadsheet of my own. I saw you're making one, so that means it's like Moneyball. The A's start doing Moneyball, everybody else has to start doing it. So I made a
Suck
spreadsheet.
about
Yards per
it.
play differential. The Falcons lead the league hands down, 1.2 yards per play differential, and that means their defense is also pretty lethal. They have 17 sacks in their last 5 games, and we've seen what Carson Wentz becomes when he's faced under pressure. And he's not the same guy. Ever since Lane Johnson's been out, because of that suspension, he has been facing a lot more pressure. He's faced 10 sacks, 4 interceptions, and he has a 1-3 record in the last 4 games, Wentz does. So I think the Falcons take this one. And also, side note, the Eagles have allowed the 5th most explosive plays, and the Falcons have the 2nd most explosive plays, obviously with Julio Jones and their offensive attack. And also Levine Toilolo. I think he's going to make a big play this week too. Count on Toilolo to take the Eagles into the toilet.
Ricky.
I'm jumping on board with that. I like the Falcons as well. I just can't see how the Eagles can keep up. This turns into a track meet, which I fully expect it to turn into. It seems like Vegas is kind of trending in that direction as well. I think the over/under was at 49.5. I think it opened up at. The Eagles just give up too many big plays. Saw that against the Giants. Falcons offense, obviously a better offense than the Giants, perhaps the best offense in football. Although the Patriots might have something to say about that as well. One thing I like from the Eagles against the Giants, they were a little bit more aggressive. We talked, a couple times this year about how they're very lateral in their passing attack, kind of protecting, I guess, Carson Wentz to some extent. When you have a rookie quarterback like that, you got to be a little conservative with the game plan. I like the fact they opened it up a little bit more, but it was met with mixed results. Obviously, that's going to happen when you have a rookie QB. As you mentioned, Falcons can get after it, even if they don't get the sacks. They'll put pressure on you. So, in a game that I anticipate being high scoring, I can't see where the Eagles keep up.
I don't think Matt Ryan gets sacked very much either. So, pressure might not even matter for the Eagles.
Right.
Yeah, I make it a sweep. Really, same thing. The big play, explosive play, whatever you want to call it, was a thing that stood out for me. I think that makes a difference in this game. Eagles, I don't think the Eagles are as good as a lot of people have given them credit for. I don't think Carson Wentz is as good as people have given him credit for. That's to be expected. When you start the season like that, you start your career like that, people are going to inflate you a little bit more than you probably should. And again, I think teams are starting to figure it out. You saw, like you just mentioned, the trying to take away those short, quick passes. When he has to throw the ball, beyond the sticks, it's a little bit of an issue. And he didn't look great, especially early on against New York. I wonder if he'll be able to figure that out this week. But I'm not betting on that. I like Atlanta. I also look at the Eagles. Their last 3 games leading into this one, they had a divisional game. They played Minnesota, and they also had another divisional game. And I believe that first divisional game, so it was basically they went Cowboys, Vikings, Giants. That's 3 physically demanding games.
No,
now you get the
Falcons.
Now you get the Falcons, who kind of coasted to a win on a Thursday night last week. I feel like that's going to catch up to the Eagles at some point. I think that's this week, even though they're back home, where they've played pretty well this year. So I like the Falcons as well.
I just want to say that never mind. Matt Ryan's been sacked 22 times this year, 6th most in the league. I apologize for giving false information.
That does make sense. It doesn't seem as bad because it's like the big play thing. So he's probably dropping back. It's a longer drop back. It takes longer for routes to develop, things like that.
Yes.
At least that's what I imagine.
I think Falcons take it.
Stick with the Eagles being 1 year away.
Yeah.
It's just it did strike me as a team that's
They're really
it's on the precipice, but
Not much of a running game.
not there yet. That's another thing.
Yeah.
Darren Sproles, when you lead your team in carries.
I do like Darren Sproles.
They've tapped
I like him, but
He's not.
I don't.
If you're,
He's not your horse.
See, and that's the thing. If you're trying to put a game away late, and this is going to be a theme for me this week, are you really going to do it with Darren Sproles? Probably not. Speaking of not being able to put away games late, Minnesota going on the road. Man, you go back 4 weeks ago, we were all high on the Vikings. Probably a little bit too high, and I don't think we're alone in that assessment. The Vikings are now 3-point underdogs going on the road to Washington to take on the Redskins. That's kind of an eye-opening spread. Ricky, what do you think?
Just as we were too high on them a few weeks ago, I don't want to go in the other direction to be too low on them either. And that's why I'm taking the Vikings in this one. We've seen they have flaws. Obviously, that offensive line is an issue, and in turn, the running attack isn't there. And then you got Sam Bradford doing Sam Bradford things. That being said, in this particular matchup, I look at it, problems on both sides of the offensive line for Washington. Left tackle Trent Williams is suspended. Right tackle Morgan Moses just got banged up in that last game against Cincinnati. So this is really going to be a little bit of a show-me game for that Vikings defense because, in addition to the flaws that they've shown, that defense hasn't been the same over these last few weeks either. Not putting the pressure on, Matt Stafford in that game, which is somewhat surprising because it's a young offensive line. You would expect a little bit more, but I don't want to. While I acknowledge the Vikings have flaws, I'm not ready to put the nail in the coffin like Andre did last week just yet. And I'm also anxious to see what they can do in the second week with the new offensive coordinator. I think they're going to push the pace a little bit more, try and mitigate the fact that they do have a bad offensive line. So I'll give them another week. If you're giving me points, I'll take the Vikings in this one because I think the Redskins have their flaws as well. So if this is they're going up against better competition, maybe I wouldn't be so high on them. But
listen,
this is a big week for me and how I view the Vikings moving
How
forward.
do you win games in the league in 2016? Smash mouth football, offensive line, strong offensive line. The Redskins' offensive line, rated by FootballOutsiders.com, which is a football analytics website. This is me again catching up in the spread Moneyball revolution. So
better late than never.
Yeah. So they're ranked second and third in pass protection and run protection. They have a great offensive line. You mentioned Trent Williams is going to be out, but the Vikings' offensive line is non-existent. So I'm going to go with the team with the better offense. I know I wrote down Vikings here. I picked the Vikings, but last night I was sitting there trying to make this pick, and I was just trying to convince myself that the Vikings aren't going to lose 4 in a row because they're the Vikings and they're a good team and they can't lose 4 in a row. But that makes no sense. That's illogical thinking. So I'm going to go with the Redskins. The Redskins are good this year because of their offensive line, and I trust that line. All the best teams in the league this year have great offensive lines. The Raiders, the Cowboys, and the Redskins. I'm a big fan of that line. And I think they're going to go out there, they're going to smash the Vikings in the mouth. And Kirk Cousins doesn't get sacked. Why doesn't he get sacked? How do you beat quarterbacks in this league? You hit him in the mouth. Kirk Cousins smacked Kirk in the mouth. Yeah. It's the same theme every week. I'm consistent with it. At least I'm consistent, unlike some of our politicians these days.
I made a pick. I picked Minnesota mistakenly. I don't know why.
So we both changed our pick in the last second.
It's just maybe that's I don't know. But I'm taking Washington.
It's the ghost of North Turner.
Let's see what you're gonna add.
I'm taking the Skins for the same reasons you guys mentioned. I look at that Washington defense. It's not the stats aren't great, but one thing that they do well, they get after the quarterback. They're 8th in the league in sack percentage. Here's one thing that really stood out to me. Minnesota scoring touchdowns on just 43.5% of its trips to the red zone.
Yeah.
So they're not scoring. That's 29th in the NFL. When they get in the red zone, they're not scoring touchdowns. You know what's a big problem for them right now? Blair Walsh can't figure it out. Can't kick. They're bringing in. I heard on the radio. They're bringing in Kai Forbath for tryouts. The kicking game's a mess. They can't score touchdowns when they get in the red zone. So how are they going to get points in this game? How do they score points?
I will say they're to the point where they are punting when they get to the red zone. I don't know if you saw that drive. I think they started at the 18-yard line after a turnover, and they ended up punting on that drive, and it was like the first time that had happened since I think 2011. So again, you're right. That speaks volumes to the state of the Vikings offense. Maybe this is an emotional bet as well. I'm going out on that limb thinking they're not going to lose a fourth in a row. I guess that's somewhat where I am with this thing, thinking it has to get better.
13 points, I think, wins this game.
They buried. I put the nail in the coffin. This week, I'm lowering them 6 feet under, and then next week we'll probably put the dirt in the hole. And
well, we're
having a nice service for them next week.
Because of that division, I don't think you can bury them until Christmas, but we'll get to that a little bit later. So let's get our third.
They lose this week. Well, we'll cremate them.
Zombie.
I'll bring the ashes out, Big Lebowski style. We'll have a little little ceremony.
That division's crap. Sunday night game. This is another good Sunday night game. Seattle heads to New England to take on the Patriots. OddsShark has this still at 7. I've seen 7.5 in some places. Super Bowl 49 rematch. Seattle coming off a Monday night win over Buffalo. Patriots coming after a bye. All signs point to the Patriots here. Andre, why don't you kick it off?
Oh, this might be. I wish I could make this my lock of the week. Come on, it's easy. The Patriots are gonna just steamroll past the Seahawks. Let me tell you something. Monday was a weird game between the Seahawks and the Bills. The Bills ran 82 plays against the Seahawks. And the Seahawks ran 42 plays against the Bills. There's a difference between 40 plays there. The Seahawks defense was on the field for 40 minutes. 40 minutes! That's a lot of minutes and a lot of plays. They got worn out and they have a short rest. They're facing the Patriots who are coming off a bye week. We all know how great Belichick is off bye weeks. They're not losing. The Patriots aren't losing this game. The Seahawks are tired. They're going to go out there all the way to the East Coast and it's going to be a flat performance. And how many times are the Seahawks going to get breaks on national television with these pass interference against the Falcons and then yesterday against the Bills with that weird play? I mean, you can go back to 2012, the Monday night game, Russell Wilson's game-winning interception. It seems like they always get these random breaks, and I'm just sick of it. But yeah, I like the Patriots.
I think the Patriots are going to win this game, but I have a hard time giving up this many points here, and it probably goes against my better judgment. But I am going to take the Seahawks. I thought their offense finally showed up a little bit, after they looked abysmal for
against
a few
a
weeks
team
there.
that gives up one of the most explosive plays in the league.
Well, I'm also
Patriots defense.
I'm going to say, the Patriots defense has its flaws as well, and I could envision a scenario where Jimmy Graham goes off for like a big game, and suddenly you look at that Jamie Collins trade, and there's a lot of second guessing going on, not from the Patriots' perspective, obviously, but
Jamie Collins not very historically good against tight ends, as Owen Daniels and
Jason Witten showed it last week too.
True, but I mean the trickle-down effect on the rest of that defense, and just kind of the whole storyline of, this defense wasn't that great before, and now you trade a guy like that, and they're even worse. So I can just see something like that happening. I mean, maybe it even turns out that it's a backdoor cover. That's a lot of points for me to be giving up against the game against the Seahawks.
You gotta wonder how they respond to that too. A lot of guys.
It seems I mean, this isn't a smooth situation by any means.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I would. That being said, I would feel a lot better if Michael Bennett was playing in this game, and if Cam Chancellor was healthy for this game,
or Tellus Bennett's playing.
When
yes, he is.
First looking at it,
we understand.
I thought this was a layup. The Patriots. Then I did a little digging. I'm also taking Seattle. I'm right with you. I think the Patriots win this game. I don't see how the Seahawks win this game, but I also don't see how the Patriots blow them out. The Patriots, see, you just fall right into the trap. And Vegas is setting this trap for you and everybody else who says, "Oh, Bill Belichick, so good after the bye." 19-3 after the bye since 2003. The Patriots are. That's straight up against the spread. They're just 12-9-1 because Vegas looks at it and says, "Oh, everybody's gonna rush to this narrative that Bill Belichick and the Patriots are so good after a bye." I mean, more often than not, they do cover, but it's much closer than you would expect. 7 points, a lot of points, especially if that offense is able to carry over anything from Monday to Sunday night. And I guess that is a big if considering how inconsistent Seattle's played this season. But if there's anything that they can do offensively this week, I think you kind of get into like a little bit of a shootout.
Yeah.
Maybe you stay close for a while.
Well, I was going to say, I might even give you that. This might be one of those games where it never really feels like it's in jeopardy of the Patriots losing.
Yeah, right.
But then you look back at the final score and the Seahawks covered. It strikes me as a game like that.
Seattle doesn't give up a ton of big plays either. They 14 big plays on 14 big pass plays, 14 big rush plays this season.
How do you find old tweets on Twitter? Remember that tweet I sent you about that record with defenses that had 90 or more plays the week before a game?
Yeah, you're right.
And the Seahawks were on the field for 82 plays on Monday night against Buffalo. And now they have a short week. I don't see how that's going to translate to success against New England. I just don't see it. I think that's going to be the biggest factor. Seattle's defense is worn down. They're going on the road. Patriots have extra rest. They're going to...
You wanted to say punch him in the mouth.
They're not going to... I don't know if there's going to be a lot of mouth punching. I don't know who's Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson might be the most overrated quarterback in the league. Tom Brady's going to teach him a few lessons on how to play the quarterback position on Sunday night.
Slap him in a Boston crab. Make him tap.
Whatever that means, but yeah.
Seahawks defense was on the... This is...
How did you find it so quickly?
I'm smarter than you are. This is from October 30th from Andrew Siciliano. He says that the Seahawks defense was on the field for 90 plays last week. Since 1970, teams who faced 90-plus plays are 17-40, 298 in the next game. That's straight up. Don't know against the spread.
Well, they had 82.
Yeah.
And
they didn't
this
face 90,
seems like a trend
also,
for the Seahawks
there were 17
defense.
teams that could pull it off. I can 18 do it.
I guess they're even playing the Patriots, I bet.
So.
But that was the Seahawks. It seems like a trend for them to stay on the field for a long time. Their defense is getting worn out. Oh.
It's pretty bad that I have to do your job for you. But anyway.
I don't know how to use... How did you do that? Teach me.
I'll show you later. Let's get into locks and upsets. Let's start with the upsets this week. And let's start with Ricky.
All right. I'm going to take the Rams, getting 2.5 points over the Jets.
Wow.
The Jets.
I like this pick.
The Jets are in, I think, disarray would be kind of an understatement at this point, which is a very Jets-like thing to happen at this juncture of the season.
Say they're under disarray. They're playing better now.
I think they're a total cluster.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, not just
with
on
the
the
Mo
field,
Wilkerson stuff. Yeah.
The Muhammad Wilkerson.
Good coach.
All right. Okay.
Coach.
Okay. So what argument do you have with the Rams?
All right.
He's getting to it.
Yeah, I mean, if you let me speak. Well, this is really an indictment on the Jets more than anything. I'm not sold on really on the Rams, but I do think they have a pretty good defense for all their offensive flaws. I don't know why they haven't gotten to Jared Goff yet, but I went over that. I ranted and raved about that a few weeks ago, so I'll spare you the agony of that again. But I mean, you look, Aaron Donald could be the best pass rusher in the NFL this year, despite having only 5 sacks. Yeah, he's a guy who gets after it.
Not getting to him.
He's not quite punching you in the mouth, but he's setting you up. He's
scaring you.
He's sparring you a little bit. But then the Jets, they're just a mess. I mean, now you got Brandon Marshall and Ryan Fitzpatrick yelling at each other, which is I mean,
saying
they were
a lot considering they were boys over the
Oh my God, yeah, just the bromance last year was off the charts. And then obviously you mentioned the Muhammad Wilkerson thing, him not showing up to meetings reportedly, and Sheldon Richardson doing the same thing. The secondary still stinks. They're going to be without Marcus Williams, who plays about 75% of the snaps. It's just, the Jets just don't seem like they're...
You're being very disrespectful to your boy, Quincy Enunwa.
I love Enunwa.
You're being extremely disrespectful to him right now.
He's the lone bright spot there. You know what I mean? He's,
as long as you call him a bright spot.
Yeah, he's the bright spot out there. We know that. But, and then, Fitzpatrick, we don't know his status, because he got banged up in that last game, and on top of that, he sucks. So it's just
Case Keenum is just an excellent quarterback.
Well, I mean, you're gonna give me points. I'll take the Rams in this one.
Andre.
My lock. This is the locks right now, right? Not upsets?
No, we're on upsets.
Oh, we're doing upsets.
Yeah.
Good God.
Do whatever you want, guy. My lock in the Rams and upset.
My upset.
It's a good
My
week for you
upset.
so far.
I like the Kansas City Chiefs to go on the road and beat
Harvard IQ isn't quite there this week. So.
This is just so everybody thinks I'm smart. I like the Kansas City Chiefs to beat the Carolina Panthers on the road. Let me tell you, I'm still not sold on Cam Newton and the Panthers, only putting up 13 points and against the atrocious Rams, who you just praised, but I did not praise. Look, the Chiefs, in the last 4 games, doesn't matter who's at quarterback for them. Nick Foles, Alex Smith, doesn't matter. Let me tell you, 0 giveaways and 10 takeaways. Because of that stat, they're leading the league in turnover differential right now. Well, I see Cam Newton. He gets hit in the mouth a lot, and he complains about it. He's turning the ball over left and right in this one. I like the Chiefs. Carolina, by the way, 26th in turnover differential. So they like to give the ball, and the Chiefs like to take the ball. What do you think is going to happen in this game?
No, I love that pick too. But you had picked it. We discussed it.
This wasn't like a 3-pack Shakur pick. So, all right, go.
My upset, I'm taking Cincinnati 2.5-point underdogs on Monday night against the Giants. You look at the spread, 2.5 points. You're just telling us it's an even game. I don't really think the Giants are that good, despite, what is their record, 5-3. I got a little more trust in Dalton. They're coming off the bye. Giants' biggest win of the season by, points-wise, 7 points. They beat the Rams by 7 points. Otherwise, their 4 wins have come by 1, 3, 4, and 5 points. They can't run the ball to save their lives. I think Minnesota's the only other worst rushing team. So even if the Giants have a lead in the second half, I don't see how they are able to salt that away because they can't run the ball. You're going to keep Cincinnati in this game, and I think Cincinnati makes a play late, and they win by a field goal. So I like Cincinnati. I just don't really like the Giants. I don't,
Yeah. They don't really put pressure on the quarterback. They're in the bottom in the league in sacks, and which is weird because the Bengals get sacked. Andy Dalton gets sacked a lot, so maybe the pass rush won't be a factor.
I think it's a big Geo game. So, all right, locks. Andre, kick it off.
Locks. Oh, this is tough. I'm going an underdog in the locks, and I don't understand how this team is an underdog this week. The Dallas Cowboys over the Pittsburgh Steelers at Pittsburgh. First of all, Tony Romo, maybe there's a small chance he might start this game, but it doesn't matter who's behind center for the Dallas Cowboys. You succeed in this league by having a great offensive line. That's what the Dallas Cowboys have. The Pittsburgh Steelers don't have anybody who's going to slow down Ezekiel Elliott. I don't see anybody slowing him down. So I see the Cowboys, again, same way. You have the recipe for success, run the ball, eat the clock. Dak Prescott makes a few big plays. What my main concern in this one is, Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown and their explosive offense. Dallas's defense isn't that amazing, but hey, they force turnovers. Roethlisberger's clearly not healthy yet, and when Roethlisberger's not healthy, he makes mistakes, and I think Dallas forces a few turnovers. They run away with this one.
Okay. I'm for my lock, I'm going with a game that I guess you look at on the surface, and it opened up as a pick'em, so obviously it's a game where you would think it could go either way. But the more I'm looking at this, I don't know how the Saints don't beat the Broncos.
Wow.
Yeah. And a lot of it is health. I'll give you that. Aqib Talib being likely to be out again. Derek Wolfe suffering that elbow injury in that Sunday night game against the Raiders. So that defense, that vaunted defense that we sit here week after week and gush over is banged up. And then on the flip side, that Broncos offense is not good at all. I'm coming to that realization pretty much across the board. 28th in total yards, 26th in yards per play, 25th in passing, 23rd in rushing. They ran the ball just 12 times against the Raiders. Maybe we're underselling the loss of C.J. Anderson a bit. That takes away a dynamic of that offense. And, I mean, they have the weapons. They have the outside threats. They have the receivers, but Trevor Siemian just doesn't look like a pretty good quarterback right now. On the flip side, New Orleans, 4th in time of possession. They they control the ball as long as they protect Drew Brees. They can put up points. I don't see it. I don't see the Broncos staying up with them in this one.
Again,
especially it also seems like going into the bye. I don't want to say the Broncos writing this game off, but it's just you get these guys banged up, and I think the best they're going to play is coming out of that bye as opposed to going in. They're kind of limping in there a little bit.
Yeah, I like that one too.
I'm not a big fan of that one, to be honest. I just think this is the type of Trevor Siemian isn't Case Keenum. He could make plays, and
I acknowledge that, but.
I mean, the Saints defense, he's gonna. I don't know.
I'm with Ricky on that. I think you get to. Can New Orleans get to 27 points in that game?
New Orleans, I think they can.
Yeah, I think that does.
I think they can in this one.
I think that gets them the win. Because I think 24 points for Denver would be a good offensive showing.
Exactly. Right, I don't really. I mean, I don't know. I don't really see how they can keep up. Just that offense is just not really showing anything. Also, Broncos' second most penalties in the NFL this year. Pretty undisciplined.
But they're a team that
Raiders show that doesn't really matter.
Yeah, no, I think the Broncos are a team that they. I think there's such thing as good penalties. Yeah, and I think if you're playing hard, but it catches up to you at a certain point.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's worth noting when you're in a game where
you're gonna need every edge you can get.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just like the Saints in this one.
I do like your point about Breeze getting a lot of protection. That's kind of making me sway. On
They've only given up 12 sacks this year, so.
Yeah, no, that's what I like.
And also, and one of the ways to beat this defense, the Broncos defense, is to jam it down their throats.
Yeah.
You saw that with basically the Raiders running the same play over and over again.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you get the Saints that have a
Tim
pretty good
Hightower.
combo in Ingram and Hightower.
Well,
I mean,
Ingram,
coming
yeah.
off a good game, so I don't know.
Oh, Michael Thomas. I like that guy.
Yeah,
He's
good point.
coming into his own.
All
Game
right,
is in
I
New
like
Orleans too. I get it. Yeah.
My pick, Packers, 2.5 points over the Titans. I will be in attendance for that game, so I have to really
hot on your sleeve.
ruin my weekend, my entire week. Background information: my fiance and I planned an entire trip to Nashville around the Packers Titans game, and now that's looking like a terrible idea, considering that the Packers season is fast dwindling.
Well,
and
at least you'll see a good game.
But my notes here, I wrote Aaron Rodgers. That's pretty much it. I think Rodgers, I liked him calling out the team after just a terrible performance for the most part against Indy. I think they come out pissed off. I think they know that this is a time that they really need to make up some ground. Or not make up ground, because Minnesota coming back to earth and Detroit being around 500, they're still in this. So I think that this is their final chance to kind of take advantage of the situation. I think they do that this Sunday. I think they come out, like I said, a pissed off football team that takes advantage. And again, Titans coming off of not a great showing. You know, if you put pressure on Marcus Mariota, he's going to make some mistakes. Not a whole lot around him, and Mike Mularkey's still the head coach there. So
Let me just strengthen your point. The Titans, they like to run the ball, but the Packers
good
allow
run defense.
3.3 rushing yards per
yeah,
carry.
but they've been gashed at times by good rush offenses, as we've
Well,
seen.
I mean, that's Dallas.
Yeah, but even then, they had some struggles with a couple other games too. But yeah, I like it. Whatever, we'll see.
I was big on the Titans last week too. I think that was the upset pick I threw out there. One of us threw out there.
Yeah, I
It's
think
the
we were all
Chargers, and
on
they
that
kinda-
game. Yep.
Fell flat.
All right, let's do prop bets real quick. We're up against it, so let's run through these. Andre, start it off.
Ricky, why don't you start it off?
All right, I'll get the ball rolling
Yeah, you
here
can get
with the quick parlay for the boys and the girls. All right, I'm sticking with the Saints. Obviously, the lock. Got to keep that one in there. I also like the Chargers. 4-point favorites over the Dolphins. That might surprise you a little bit. Dolphins getting a little bit of a roll here. You know, I'm trying to make things a little interesting. But I'm not sold on that run defense. And Melvin Gordon is really he's legit.
Beast.
He's been a monster this season. So I think that they could run the ball against them. I like the Chiefs as well over the Panthers for basically all the reasons that Andre outlined. Mostly it comes down to that turnover battle. Chiefs are going to win that, ultimately win the game. And I'm taking the under 45 on the Browns-Ravens because even though the Ravens pulled off that win against the Steelers, still underwhelming offensively. The Browns are the Browns. That strikes me as a low-score divisional game in which it's 20-14, 20-17. I don't know, less than 45 points combined.
Pretty good. Yeah, makes sense.
All right, I'm going to do a 3-team teaser. Dallas +9 over Pittsburgh. There's no way they lose by 2 touchdowns. It's not going to happen. Miami +10 over San Diego, a team that loves to play close games. Even if San Diego wins, I like Miami covering a 10-point spread. And Chicago +4.5, or no, 4.5 over Tampa Bay. I love Jay Cutler. Chicago's also one of those teams that plays close games.
You throw some words.
Listen,
know
Chicago.
what they mean.
Chicago, their yards per play differential is number 2 in the NFL.
Yeah.
They're doing something right. They're getting in the
I love Jay
wrong
Cutler.
end of
We'll
things.
revisit that
Yeah.
quote
I like
down
Jay
the line.
Cutler.
I really, every time I put that in my chart, it's like, wait, Chicago?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
You're number 3 on yours, but they're number
they're
2 on
tied,
mine.
yeah.
Well, tied for. Okay, there you go. So
I got nothing.
Look how bad they've been against the spread. 1-6 against the spread. That has to neutralize.
Yeah.
Going back to regress to the mean. So I like that 3-team teaser.
I like Chicago a lot this week. I just don't love Jay Cutler, like you just said. I'm going to go with just the individual player prop bet. Again, these don't come out till later in the week, so I'm not entirely sure what the number is, but I'm still going to put blind faith in Ben Roethlisberger passing yards. I'll take the over. I think that they're just, they probably fall behind early against Dallas, and I think that number might be a little bit lower because of what he did last week. But again, even in the second half, and when they got in desperation mode, they looked a little bit better offensively. So I think they kind of find it. You go back and look at the numbers. Roethlisberger, the first week after an injury, usually terrible. Then he kind of figures it out because he comes back too early. But So I think they kind of start to figure it out a little bit offensively. That's I think that's the highest over/under of the week too. So
Yeah, the Steelers in that game?
there's going to be some points. I haven't made a decision yet on that. I got to look into that. I haven't made my pick on that. So and I'm leaning towards the Cowboys as well, though. All right, let's do a little show and tell them to get out of here.
I'm glad you brought up Brendan Roethlisberger, because that's why I brought in the Ultimate Warrior today, because time and again this guy, say what you want about him as a human being, as a person in general, but between the lines, the guy puts it on the line all the time, regardless of his injury status. And like you said, I expect him to bounce back, and it's incumbent upon him. He has to bounce back. Otherwise, the Steelers, again, their potential is there's a ceiling to it. I mean, when he's healthy, we've seen they can be as good as anybody in football. When he's not, you get a showing like you did last week, at least through the first 3 quarters against the Ravens, who still not so good. No matter how many times they win, I think their defense might be a little underrated, but still just not sold on them. But I just can't help but marvel at Big Ben rolling out there. It doesn't matter the procedure. Guy finds a way to get out there, for better or worse. Right?
Perfect segue, by the way.
Okay.
You destroyed the Raiders. Here's what I have today for you guys. I have
It's perfect.
It's not in your pet.
No, this is from outside. It's a
Okay.
rock. That's a rock.
When you get a rock that big
And then
outside?
It's just like, hey, no questions, right?
Lives in the mountains.
This is a car. Are you following me here?
It's no wonder our time.
Did you buy that? Straight out of the
No,
package?
this is from New Hampshire Motor Speedway.
From Nesson Fuel?
This is a car, Derek Carr, not David Carr. Derek Carr. And every Raiders game pretty much looks like this. There's a huge rock in front of Derek Carr. And there's people attacking him, but they can't get to him. And he's throwing all these bullets. End zone. And then they get it to Latavius Murray, and he just goes and he scores all the time.
Yeah.
Kelechi Osemele. This is Kelechi Osemele. He's a rock.
Yeah.
What a free agent pickup. Donald Penn
Donnie Penn.
caught a touchdown 2 weeks ago against his former team, the Tampa Bay Bucks. What else does this team have to do to show you they're for real? They went and they beat the Denver Broncos. They're 7-2.
Beat the tire out of them.
They're second place in the AFC. What do they have to do? They're for real. They have it all. They have all the ingredients. They have perfect
Yes, they're for
balance.
real.
They force turnovers. Their defense, they allow a lot of yards. But name me one team that doesn't have a flaw. Reggie Nelson had a pick against the Broncos.
I agree.
Yep.
No, you don't. You said you don't believe in the Raiders. You said.
When did I say that?
You just said I'm not sold on the Raiders.
I didn't say that.
You might have just said that
You literally just said that.
What?
3 minutes ago.
About what?
Okay. Maybe I convinced them. I guess.
I'm gonna put I wish I had put this on before you spit in my face in your diatribe. I've got a clown mask, and this might as well be Walt Coleman, NFL referee Walt Coleman. Let me run down a few things for you. 2000, I forget what year it was. The Tuck Rule game. Walt Coleman, head official. 2003 AFC Championship. The Colts get bullied by the Patriots receivers. Don't get any call. It leads to a rule change. Who was the head official? Walt Coleman. 2012 Thanksgiving game. Remember this one? Houston, Detroit. Justin Forsett looks like he's down after a short game. Gets up, runs for a long touchdown. Then Jim Schwartz became Jim Schwartz. Challenged it. You couldn't challenge it at the point because it's a scoring play. It negates the challenge. They changed the rule, but there never should have been an issue because they should have called him down because he was down. You know who the official in that game was?
Walt Coleman?
Walt Coleman.
Very strong memory, by the way.
AFC Championship a couple years ago, raining here in Gillette Stadium. We learned about the ideal gas loss eventually. It was a little funny business with the gauges. You know who the head official was?
This guy.
Walt Coleman. Yeah. Let's go to Monday night. Richard Sherman just jacks up the kicker because of the, whatever the rule is, what it is. You know who the official was Monday night? Walt Coleman. It's a goddamn clown show, and that guy referees games. So that's where the clown mask comes from. A clown show. It might not necessarily always be his fault, but it sure seems to follow him. So, good job, Walt.
I said I wasn't sold on the Ravens, all right?
Ravens?
Yeah, not the Raiders.
Oh, that makes sense.
All right, I just want that to be out there because I like the Raiders.
All right.
That makes more sense.
Is that Regis Philbin?
That is Regis Philbin.
Also,
All right.
that guy looks like the guy when we are getting food Saturday night.
It
He
really
looks
does
a little.
look
He's
like
got
him.
the same hair.
Play
Good,
some
so it's a
Arcade
good
Fire.
clown mouse. That guy. That's a sketch from a guy in Brighton.
All right.
Wanted.
That's been The Spread, NESN.com's football pick podcast, video podcast. Thanks again to NESN.com for sponsoring. Thanks to Oddshot for the lines. We'll see you again. Well, I won't see you next week. We'll figure something out because I'll be on the road. I might call in. We'll figure something out. But thanks for joining us, and see you later.